Hello friends, we're here today in Luke chapter 11. So there are 7 sections in this chapter, and I'm not going to talk about all 7. In fact, I'm only going to talk about 3, and mainly I'm going to linger on the first one. So the first one is his disciples ask him to teach them how to pray. You know, like John taught his disciples how to pray. And so Jesus does this, and he gives an explanation of prayer, much like he did in the Sermon on the Mount. In fact, the parts of the prayer are just about the same. When people look at this, there's an acronym for what they say you're supposed to do in prayer, and the acronym is ACTS, A-C-T-S. That's adoration, confession, A-C-T, thanksgiving, and S, supplication. I don't really like this acronym because when I read the Sermon on the Mount and when I read this, Jesus' explanation of prayer, I don't see thanksgiving in the prayer. I see the adoration. Now, adoration is when I guess we get the word adore from it. You know, it's when you're explaining to God that what you love about him. It's thanking God for being wonderful. It's kind of like what you do when you sing hymns, you know, about God's greatness. It's aligning your heart with his greatness. It's focusing on God. And it's interesting because I often feel like supplication is something that for a long time I was like, doesn't God already know that he's awesome? Do I need to say, "Dear God, you're awesome"? You know, he would say, "Yeah, I know." But adoration, very important part because it aligns your heart with the truth. It's almost a form of, I don't know, just meditation, really. It's telling God that he's awesome, but it's making your mind dwell on that, and that's actually really good for you. It's good for your soul. It's good to just sit back and think about how amazing God is. This is important for our life, and it seems like it's giving back to God, and I suppose it is, but in a lot of ways, it's good for you to just pray and just, you know, as it says in the Old Testament, you know, be still and know that I am God. So that's adoration. The next one, confession. You know, we don't have a problem with this one, or at least, you know, I feel like a lot of people, when they pray, they often go to supplication and confession. You know, you just think about all the ways that you've fallen short, and you just dwell on these things. And you pray to God, you hope that God will forgive you for everything that you've done wrong. And we know that he does, but a lot of times we dwell on this. I have found that when I look at my prayers, I had to do a prayer journal when I was in seminary, and I found that 75% of my sins, or not my sins, 75% of my prayers are confession. And the other 25 was supplication. Now, supplication, that is, you know, asking God for things. You know, I need a new job. I need you to help me deal with these people at work. I need a new house. You know, I need a new refrigerator. You know, these things, these are supplications. That's asking God for things, and there's nothing wrong with these things. You know, God asks you to do this. I feel like we dwell a little too much on confession and supplication because those are the things that are, God, give me. You know, I feel like a lot of times we're like little kids, and we dwell on these things. I think about little kids and how they're constantly just saying, I want more. You know, please give this to me, give it to me. And at some point, you build up a relationship with your parents or your children, and you're able to have a conversation with them. You're able to enjoy their company. You love them not because of some sort of need connection, but because you enjoy their company. And I think that's important, that we grow closer to things like Thanksgiving and adoration. Even though I don't see Thanksgiving in this, I think if there's any way that I would encourage other people to grow stronger, and it would be adoration. Anyway, he then talks about these scenarios, and I think they're hilarious. I don't know if Jesus is trying to be funny, but I've never really thought about these sections before, and it's just really interesting to me. And he says, let's say you have a friend, and he comes over and he says, hey, I need some food because I have a friend who came over and I don't have anything to give him. And he goes through this whole scenario of like what this guy might be thinking. Like, okay, look, I'm in my bed, my whole family's packed up. You would just think of all the things that you want to say to this person. Like, look, it's not my fault that you don't have any food for your friend. Why is that my fault? And then he says something that, this is why I think it's funny, is that he says, you will actually do that for your friend. You would supply your friend with what he needs because of his impotence. And it's like, what is this saying? He's saying that God will give you what you need because you need it, and because he loves you. And I think that's really great. I mean, I guess that goes back to the analogy I was making about your children. You have little children, and I guess Jesus makes this point himself. He says you have these little children, and if they ask you for something, you're going to give it to them. Not everything, but if they ask you for food, if they ask you for things, you're happy to give them what you want. I know a lot of people that they'll go into debt. They'll do anything for their children. They go way above and beyond. And Jesus is saying, that's what God will do for you. That's what God wants to do for you. So in this section, I feel like partially Jesus is telling them how to pray, but he's also saying, do it. Pray. Praying is important because it's powerful. And I feel like a lot of what keeps people from growing in their relationship with God is they just forget how powerful and how wonderful prayer is. So I've talked about prayer for a lot, so I will move on to the next section that I'm going to talk about. And that is, there's a part where it talks about the sign of Jonah. Now what's interesting is he's talking about how in all these areas they're kind of rejecting, in the previous chapter there were places that were rejecting Jesus as he came into their city, and Jesus is talking about these places, but also Jerusalem. He's talking about all of Israel. But he's saying, a long time ago, the Queen of Sheba, you can read about this in the Old Testament, came to visit Solomon because she heard how wisdom and how rich and how wise he was. And so she came and spoke to him because she wanted to experience his knowledge. She wanted to talk to him. And he's saying, in the judgment, he's saying the Queen of Sheba had faith. And she came right to God's people, and she communicated with them. And likewise, the people of Nineveh, everybody hated Nineveh. They were the worst place ever. And God sent Jonah to Nineveh, and they repented. They repented right away. What a great story. When I first started this YouTube channel, I did a trial run before I did the New Testament, and I started with Jonah because it's such a great book. And Jesus is saying here, someone better than Jonah is here. Someone better than Jonah, and yet the horrible people of Nineveh, they accepted God's word. And yet you, God's people, are rejecting someone who's even greater than Jonah. God himself is here, and you are rejecting him. So he's drawing this parallel between the Queen of Sheba and the people of Nineveh, and these people with these hardened hearts that are living there in Jerusalem, that are God's chosen people. So the last section here is he's talking about the light, and like on the Sermon on the Mount. In the Sermon on the Mount, he says, nobody lights a light and then hides it under a basket. And what he's saying here is, your eyes are the light of your soul. They light your whole body, because if you can see everything, it's saying your body is filled with light. Now, it's an interesting word picture, but what he's saying is that you can understand what's around you, but he's like, but if your light becomes dim, you can't see. If you can't see, there's no way to perceive what is around you. Now, what is making your light dim? And he's saying essentially evil and sin. When these things get into your life, your light in your life, he's saying it makes it dim. I think this is talking again about something that I've been talking a lot about through this series, and that is this spiritual sight. As I was talking about the Queen of Sheba and the people of Nineveh, they were given some sort of spiritual sight. They were able to see something that the people of Jerusalem, or the people of Israel at the time, were not able to see. And he's saying, if you let evil into your life, the things of God, you're not able to see them. So I don't know how many times it's happened in my life where I've seen somebody walk away from their faith. And I came from a very strong youth group, and I remember looking around thinking, I'm going to be with these people forever, all of my life and all of eternity, and just feeling really great about that. But there's so many people that just fall away, and when you talk to them, it has nothing to do with the youth group or their has nothing to do with logic and everything. When I talk to these people, often they say, no, I have great memories of church. I have great memories of Christians. Nobody there, and I really don't think that it's foolish. I just don't see it anymore. I don't believe it because I don't perceive it. But when you look at their life, they fell into sin long before they couldn't see. And it happens so many times, and it's pretty heartbreaking. So anyways, that is Luke chapter 11. Have a great day. Bye.